Don't be shy, give it a try. If that phrase was said to your, say, 10-year-old son at school, don't be shy, give it a try, and the subject was masturbation, would that incense you as a parent? Would you be slightly concerned that a teacher, a qualified paid teacher on the government register of teachers, whatever, in the educational system, is saying to your child about the subject of masturbation, don't be shy, give it a try, presumably in the privacy of your own home, in your bedroom or wherever, and not in the classroom. But even so, if that was part of your relationship and sex education, as such that the schools are rolling out, I think as a parent I would be incensed, especially as that lesson had not necessarily and most unlikely been told to the parents in advance that that is the content of the lesson and that's what they're going to be doing. To a 10-year-old, don't be shy, give it a try. This does seem to be what's happening in our schools in Britain. I don't know about the rest of the world, but there seems to be a very marked increase in the type of sexual education that is sexualizing children up and down the land, completely unnecessarily so, as well as all the gender nonsense of whether, you know, you can be a boy, you can be a girl, the choice is yours, regardless of what tackle that you have been born with. I've been listening to Liberty Tactics podcast, a fantastic podcast by Lou Collins, and her team, very hot on what is going on with children in this country and, of course, around the world. And there's been a lot of terrible stuff with children being placed into slavery, children disappearing, children being abused, children vanishing for all sorts of nasty and nefarious things. And these are our future, the children. And it's absolutely appalling and it breaks my heart. I'll leave the link in the description so that you can go and listen to the Liberty Tactics podcast. It's absolutely quite scary. But just coming back home to where we live, say, if you're watching this in the UK, and maybe if you're an American or Australian, New Zealander, whatever, and you're also listening, these might be happening in your country as well. It does seem to be something that all governments seem to be quite keen on, the sexualization of children and preparing children, it would seem to me, for abuse early on by all sorts of very nasty and sinister people. Making children aware of the sexual practices of adults as children, to me, seems very odd and peculiar. And listening to Liberty Tactics, it would appear that these youngsters at this age are given photographs of naked men and women and being told exactly what these items that these people have on their bodies, the bits that you and I, when we went to school, if you're of a certain age like I am, would not be spoken about. It is a worry. And if this doesn't make you think, hang on a minute, I want to take my kid out of school, then I don't know what does. And you may say, oh, but it's all right. We'll just write a letter and say, I don't want my child to have this relationship and sex education, RSE, as it's known. It will just take the kids out for those lessons. Well, apparently you can't do that because the lessons are not scheduled at specific times. This knowledge as such, or this brainwashing, let's say, is being put into many of the lessons in many different ways. So you can't just avoid that single lesson where they're talking about, as in my day, the birds and the bees. It's all over the place. And a teacher was questioned about this and said, look, what do you feel about this? And the teacher said, yes, I know, I'm not really happy with it, but effectively it's my job. In other words, I'm not happy about it. I don't think the kids are really going to benefit from this. I think this is probably detrimental to mankind, but it's my job, so I'm going to do it anyway. And this is the problem where people are just following orders. Are you somebody who just follow orders, and does that excuse you? I think maybe there were a lot of Nazis who, in the Second World War, who just followed orders, and somehow, you know, you execute someone. Well, I've been told to do it. Sorry, mate, this is just my job. Really? At what point do you actually use and engage your morals in this, that you say, hang on a second, you're asking me to implement this very nasty, pernicious sexualization of children, and you're asking me to carry it out, and I'm expected to do that and just follow orders. At what point do you, as a teacher, let's say, hold on, no, this does not smell right to me. This is not what I think children should be educated in at that age. And younger, 6-year-olds also being told rather strange things about whether they can choose the gender that they want to be. You don't have to be a boy. You don't have to be a girl. You can switch, you know. It's perfectly all right. And then all this sort of nonsense about pronouns. I mean, for heaven's sake, the children of this country have enough problems dealing with the fact that their parents go to work and that they're being given a whole bunch of toys or various things in which they perhaps really want to just spend time with their parents. They're being shipped off into an environment where they're with other children of their same age. They're not associating with grandparents, older people, younger people, mixed ages and different professions, doing different things to get some form of grounding and what school is about. They're all being trained as if in some boot camp, have to put their hand up and ask permission to allow them to follow a biological function if, for example, they just need to spend a penny and go to the lavatory. No, they're being told and trained how to behave in society. They're being prepared to be good slaves. This is something that is very, very worrying. And now with all the technology in the school coming on and the way that's being implemented with fingerprints being used, those biometric technologies being used to pay for dinners, the dinner money that's coming off, or cards or other forms, or even the technology. I mean, I wonder these days how many times children actually pick up a pen and write in longhand rather than having to use electrical equipment. And how many of the schools have got 5G apparatus in there? How many of the schools have encouraged children to take medical interventions because some snotty something is going around and suddenly, the school nurse has come in from Big Pharma to try and sell some more products which may not be quite as good as we first thought, and in fact perhaps is a big pack of lies with something rather detrimental for the children that is going to cause them problems perhaps in the reproductive organs later in life. If ever this was a time now for parents to and mums and dads to start thinking about, actually, am I doing the right thing by sending my children to these brainwashing institutions for my kids just so I can go and earn some money and get the kids out the way? Is that really the right thing to do? And maybe I should be looking at home education, educating the kids, taking them to work with me if possible, and dealing with their education in a much more holistic way than sending them to these institutional boot camps which have the stamp of what the government want them to be like, so that they don't question, they don't use common sense, they haven't got any critical thinking skills. They're told exactly how to behave and how to think. David Edelman, who's been on my show and goes around talking about, he is the people's lawyer, wrote this amazing book called School, No Place for Children. a wake-up call indeed. And he goes through this, and I'll leave the link in the description if you're interested, and it tells you exactly what's happening in the schools and the brainwashing and the nasty stuff, and why children really and truly should not be going to these institutions. And if that phrase, "Don't be shy, give it a try," is not enough to think that is what teachers are saying to their children, knowing full well that what they are suggesting is wrong, for children to go home and not even tell their parents, "Oh, mum, dad, I'm going to go up to the bathroom or into my bedroom now and have a little practice at this new thing my teacher was telling me about. Don't be shy, give it a try. It's only masturbation. It's perfectly fine. And your little pee-pee is perfectly adequate to do it at your young age." I mean, it's morally wrong, it's disgusting, and it should stop immediately. And if you're not a very good parent, perhaps then you won't be bothered about this. But if you are worried about the future of mankind and the future of your children particularly, then perhaps this book or other things like it should be read and understood. Check out Liberty Tactics podcast, because Lou and her team are really on the case of what's happening to children. It is nefarious, it is awful, and it really, really, really has to stop.